Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good afternoon. May I request everyone to go to their seats? I now call the meeting to order. It is my pleasure to report on behalf of the Bureau on the status of credentials of the representatives attending the 7th Asian and Pacific Ministerial Population Conference in accordance with Rule 12 of the ESCAP Rules of Procedure. The Bureau of the 7th Asian and Pacific Population Conference noted that credentials had been received by a total of 41 member states and found them to be in order. May I take it that it is the wish of the 7th Asian and Pacific Ministerial Population Conference to take note of the report of the chair and vice chairs? I see no objections. It is so decided. Before we continue, I would like to give the floor to the Secretary for some housekeeping announcement. Sabine, please.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. For your information, we have posted the report, the procedural report that is before you on the website. There was a slight delay. We apologize this, but we have circulated on time by email prior, so you should have all received it. We will go through the report next, and just as a kind reminder, as we had said early on, we will circulate the report for factual checking within a week after this meeting, and then it will be submitted and finalized by the chair and to editor to be published then on the website as a report of the meeting. The chair's summary will be annexed to the report. And with that, I give the floor back to the distinguished vice chair.
Thank you very much, Secretary. We will begin this afternoon with our consideration of Agenda Item 5, adoption of the report on the conference. Distinguished delegates, I have the pleasure to present to you the draft report of the 7th Asian and Pacific Population Conference contained in ESCAP/APPC 7/L.1. The report of the conference contains 3 sections. Number 1, matters calling for action by the Commission are brought to its attention. Number 2, organization. And number 3, a concise chair's summary of the proceedings will be prepared after the meeting and circulated for factual corrections within a week of the conclusion of the meeting. This will be annexed to the report. This was also mentioned by the Secretariat. I would like to inform delegates that English language editing of the report will be undertaken by the Secretariat following the adoption of the report. In view of this, distinguished delegates are requested to focus on the substance of the report and to leave the editorial work of correcting any grammatical or typographical errors to the Secretariat. I also request those delegates wishing to make minor changes to the text to read them out at dictation speed. With respect to any major changes, please provide the written text to the Secretariat so that they may enter it on screen for consideration by all delegations. You can see the draft report on the screen. May I propose that we go through the text of the draft report with the aim of adopting it. We will now review the draft report section by section. Apology, I didn't notice the flag of the distinguished delegate from Iran. I stop for the moment and call on the distinguished delegate from Iran. Please.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Just I wanted to explain that, of course, you know better than me that the outcomes of the reviews of the ICPD are not intergovernmentally negotiated. So we have an EOP that we are going to deliver. Is it possible now to deliver this EOP, or after, when the report is going to be adopted, we have to give this EOP? Because we have some problems with the ministerial declaration because we have voted against it, and also we believe that the outcomes of the reviews of the ICPD are not intergovernmentally negotiated, so we cannot implement it. And also we have to say something about 2030 agenda. If now is the time that we can deliver our EOP explanation of position, let me deliver it. Or if it is better, we can deliver this EOP after when the document is going to be adopted.
Thank you very much. Yes, we will request you to make your statement after the adoption of the report. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your kind question. I also now call on the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation.
Благодарю вас, госпожа председатель. То, что я бы хотел сказать от имени российской делегации, в определенной степени стыкуется с тем, о чем говорил уважаемый представитель делегации Ирана. Я бы хотел предложить некоторые корректировки по рекомендации 1, которые будут учитывать ту ситуацию, которая имела место при принятии декларации 2013 года. Was adopted. Действительно, 3 делегации, включая делегацию Российской Федерации, голосовали против этой резолюции. В этой связи мы предлагаем в качестве компромиссной формулировки для рекомендации 1 следующее. После слов Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development поставить запятую, добавить слова as appropriate and taken into account views and positions of member states on the above-mentioned declaration. Благодарю вас, госпожа председатель. При этих условиях, при условии включения данной корректировки, мы готовы были бы согласиться с рекомендацией 1. Спасибо.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from the Russian Republic. As we see, the Secretariat has already written your proposed amendment. Has the Secretariat faithfully recorded your suggestion? Yes, please.
My apologies, with your indulgence. Поскольку мы рассматриваем доклад по секциям, по разделам, я бы хотел сразу, с вашего позволения, озвучить наши корректировки по рекомендации номер 2.
Thank you very much. I would like this to be done subsection by subsection, if the distinguished delegate from the Russian Republic is okay for me to first ask the body if they're amenable to your suggestion, then we could go to your other suggestion for recommendation 2. I will ask the body first. Is it okay? We finish first with recommendation 1?
Наша поправка касается рекомендации 2. А рекомендация 2 входит в тот раздел, который мы рассматриваем сейчас.
Yes, we are discussing section 1, but we're looking at the screen as we see it. So I hope you don't mind. Thank you very much. So we go back to your suggestion for recommendation 2 after I call on the distinguished delegate from Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a technical correction. Before the word mandates, on the third line, can you please insert the word respective, because each organization has their respective mandates and we need to be very clear about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from Japan. I would like to note that the suggestions given are highlighted in yellow, so everyone will know the suggestions given by the different distinguished delegates. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegate from the United States of America.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. We were happy to go along with the recommendation as you have proposed, but just reacting to proposals before us. Unfortunately, from our perspective, we cannot go along with the proposal made by the Russian Federation for a number of reasons, including also that we already see this, the idea reflected at the end of the paragraph, because we already talk about the national and regional levels. So already member states' views are taken into account there, and so we cannot go along with further caveating here of the declaration. Our preference actually on the first part regarding the phrase that my distinguished colleague from Japan edited would be actually to delete the whole phrase within their respective mandates. We find that to be duplicative and limiting, and actually, you know, everyone knows their mandates, and so we don't need to be repeating within their respective mandates. So we would propose to delete the whole phrase within their respective mandates. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from the United States of America. May I now call on the distinguished delegate from the Russian Republic, if you are okay with the note of the United States of America, where the last part of recommendation 1 actually already considers what you are proposing in your amendment, which is about taking into account views and position of member states. So what is being pointed out is that the last statement saying in the context of national and regional levels would actually work without your suggestion, as well as the one given by Japan. May I call on the distinguished delegate from the Russian Republic, please? Then I will call on the distinguished delegate from Japan.
Первое. Я представляю делегацию Российской Федерации, а не Российской Республики.
Oh, I'm very sorry, yes.
Второе. Ситуация, которая сейчас развивается на наших глазах, свидетельствует о существенных недоработках в подготовительном процессе конференции. Те рекомендации и решения, которые конференция предполагается должна принять, должны, конечно, рассматриваться и согласовываться с государствами-членами в рамках подготовительного процесса. В идеале. Коль скоро этого не было, Мы имеем дело сейчас с возникновением различных позиций по вопросам формулировок, в частности, рекомендации 1. Если у нас здесь возникают такие существенные разногласия, значит, надо искать решение этим вопросам сегодня и сейчас. На полях попутно хочу заметить, что предложение, которое сделала моя делегация 3 минуты назад, оно, по сути, компромиссное. Оно сформулировано таким образом, что учитывает интересы всех государств. Исходя из тех формулировок, которые вы видите у нас на экране. Если одна из делегаций абсолютно однозначно хочет придерживаться только какого-то одного своего подхода, это не может, конечно, устроить нас, как члена ESCAP и как государство, член Организации Объединенных Наций. Это на полях. Таким образом, возвращаясь к тому, что я сказал, что нам приходится искать решение сегодня и сейчас, учитывая недоработки и упущения подготовительного процесса, я мог бы от имени нашей делегации, так как мы это здесь обсуждаем сейчас за столом, предложить вторую компромиссную формулировку для рекомендации 1, которая будет сформулирована таким образом, я ее объясню, саму идею, что мы убираем ссылку на декларацию как таковую. И сфокусируемся на мандате ESCAP в области народонаселения. Звучать она может следующим образом. And I'm sorry about actually these. I'm talking the top of my head. I will need to double check how it fits into the text. Continue to support Commission members and associate members in the implementation of the Commission's mandate in the area of population and development. Благодарю вас. With your indulgence, I would like to hand over to the head of the delegation of the Russian Federation at this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Большое спасибо, госпожа председательствующая, господа участники. Я хотела бы пояснить. Дело в том, что вся первая рекомендация, в той редакции, в которой она изложена сейчас, до внесения наших поправок, по сути, посвящена только одному тезису – поддержке дальнейшего исполнения, реализации Министерской декларации 2013 года. Вот если убрать все вводные слова, ни о чем другом в ней речь не идет. Но поскольку в нашем зале присутствуют как страны, которые в 2013 году подписали Министерскую декларацию, так и страны, которые ее не подписали, и таким образом государства уже выразили свою позицию по отношению к этому документу, то, к сожалению, те технические моменты, на которые указывают представители США, никак не меняют сути этой рекомендации. Поэтому я прошу тогда в этой модели удалить упоминание министерской декларации и, собственно, первой рекомендации. Мне кажется, это будет компромиссный вариант, и он сохранит позиции всех стран, участников в зале.
Thank you very much. Before I call on the distinguished delegate from the USA, I will first call on the distinguished delegate from Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Given that we're still fixing recommendation 1, I would prefer to see how that lands, but I will express my general preference to retain within their respective mandates, because sometimes, ESCAP is a sprawling organization, so we would like to see that level of discipline imposed here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from Japan, stating their intent to continue to include their suggestion of the phrase within the respective mandates. May I now call on the distinguished delegate from Iran?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Regarding the proposal made by my dear colleague from Japan, we believe that it will add to the merit of this paragraph, so we would like to support this inclusion. And regarding the two proposals made by the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation, our general we think that the first proposal is the better one. I mean that the deletion of the reference to the ministerial declaration. But if it is not accepted, we will also support the second regarding the addition of the viewpoints of the countries. But I have an editorial also amendment, Commission's *S mandates. Commission's mandates in the area of application. This is our preferred
Thank you
language.
very
Thank you.
much to the distinguished delegate from Iran. I now call on the distinguished delegate from the United States of America to reply to the alternative proposal from our distinguished delegates from the Russian Federation.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thanks to my colleague from the Russian Federation. I'm indeed trying to find a solution here that is amenable for all members of ESCAP. I think from our perspective, we would not be able to go along with deleting the declaration. As my colleague from the Russian Federation notes, indeed, some member states signed, some did not. I would assume those that did not sign are anyway not implementing it, and so it doesn't apply to them. So going back to their original proposal, and again, really trying to find a compromise here, because our preference is to delete the whole phrase. Perhaps we could delete just the as appropriate and leave taking into account views and positions of the member states, which I think, if I'm understanding my distinguished colleague from the Russian Federation, helps address their concern, which is that some members have not signed the declaration. So this way we are still retaining, taking into account views of member states, which also includes those that didn't sign the declaration. So again, just removing the as appropriate and keeping the latter part. And this is really a big compromise from my delegation's perspective, but also trying to understand the different viewpoints and find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from the United States of America. My understanding is this, that the distinguished delegate from the USA is okay with the suggestion of the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation, the original one, but without the phrase as appropriate. May I know the reply of the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Благодарю вас, госпожа председатель. Мы действительно сейчас находимся в ситуации, когда стараемся найти зону мягкой посадки для той рекомендации, которую мы видим на экране. И с учетом того, что было сказано уважаемой представительницей делегации США, а также учитывая наше намерение найти максимально приемлемые формулировки для всех государств-членов, мы считаем возможным согласиться с компромиссом, который будет заключаться в том, что после слов декларации будет включена фраза «taken into account», etc. Спасибо.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation and also to the other distinguished delegates. So this is my understanding of what we have now. We will add that phrase as suggested by the distinguished delegate from Japan and supported by the distinguished delegate from Iran within their respective mandates. So that's the first part with the yellow highlight. Then the suggestion of the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation of so we're not anymore considering the second suggestion of the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation. We go straight to their first recommendation earlier, where we, after the phrase implementation of the, we go straight to the implementation, okay, of the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development, and taking into account views and position of the member states in their, where am I? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And taking into account views and position of the member states on the above mentioned declaration, then everything follows. I hope I captured the recommendations and the compromise from the various distinguished representatives. I now call on the distinguished representative from Iran.
Thank you, Madam
Okay,
Chair. If we have passed this, we have another proposal regarding this paragraph. We have accepted the finalization of this paragraph, or?
Oh, thank you very much.
We have a suggestion on this very paragraph.
Yes, the Secretariat is finalizing the edits given everyone's suggestions and compromise. Okay, so distinguished delegate from Iran, were we able to capture your suggestion,
Yes,
or it's not there?
the first amendment captures our viewpoint, but regarding the International Conference on Population and Development and the outcomes of its reviews, as I explained earlier, the outcomes of the reviews are not intergovernmentally negotiated. So we suggest to delete "and the outcomes of its reviews" and just refer to the ICPD. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from Iran. But I now go back again to the distinguished delegate from the United States of America.
Thank you so much. Just a quick reaction to my distinguished delegate from Iran. We cannot go along with this deletion for two reasons. One, this is a relatively common formulation, including in the CPD itself. When we talk about the ICPD and the outcomes of its reviews, it is widely agreed in the General Assembly and in the CPD itself. So we hope that delegations could go along with it here in the context of ESCAP. And then also additionally, the reviews themselves are negotiated at the regional level. So of course, not every member state gets to see every regional review, but they certainly do play a role in the reviews for their respective regions or regions, depending on where they are a member. And again, just noting for colleagues, this is a very widely known formulation, including in the CPD itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate of the United States of America. May I ask for the
Thank you,
reply?
Madam Chair. Just to explain that, I know that it is the members of the regions have accepted those reviews, but for example, Iran is not a member of Latin American group or region. So these are not intergovernmentally agreed languages in the international level. They are just regional. We insist on deleting it, and if it is not, if no other country has problem with this wording, we have to disassociate ourselves from it later. But as I explained, they are not internationally accepted intergovernmentally in the international level. They are regional. The reviews, for example, in Asia Pacific, and the reviews in Latin America. My country is not a member of a Latin American group, so we cannot accept or because we have not negotiated those reviews ourselves. So with this rationale, I propose the deletion of these outcomes of the reviews because the ICPD itself covers everything. But if no country has a problem with this, we have to disassociate from this language at a later stage. Thank you.
May I now call on the distinguished delegate from the United States of America?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Just to mention again that from our perspective, we cannot go along with this deletion, just given that this is a formulation we see very often. So we would not be able to go along with Iran's proposal. And perhaps if it can be helpful to my distinguished colleague from Iran, similarly, you know, we are a member of several regions, but of course, the regions we are not a member of, we don't necessarily consider the outcomes of those reviews applying to us because we're not a member of that region. So perhaps if that is helpful to my distinguished colleague from Iran, indeed, the ECLAC outcome reviews, as the example that he gave, would not be applicable to the delegation of Iran because they're not a member of that region. So it's not asking for every outcome of every review to be applicable to every member state, but rather for your respective regions. And there we were all at the table playing a part in the outcome. So hopefully that explanation can help delegations. Thank you.
May I call on the distinguished delegate from Australia?
Thank you. Just to affirm the position of the United States on here, that this is standard language, the outcomes of its reviews, and we also couldn't accept taking that out. Thank you.
Distinguished delegate from Iran?
Thank you so much for the explanation provided by my colleague from the United States. So we are talking about the applicability. If we want to see it's applicable for everyone, we have to add a phrase here, and the outcomes of the reviews were applicable. It is very simple. It is a very simple proposal. Were applicable. It doesn't harm the text itself, and it shows that many countries are not from other groups, so it is not applicable to them. So we have to use this term, where applicable.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from Iran for the suggestion. May I call on the distinguished delegate from the United States of America?
Thank you so much, and thanks to my distinguished colleague from Iran. We would not be able to go along with this addition here, particularly because we've seen this formulation, as my colleague from Australia noted, and it's very well established. So we would not be comfortable changing it here at the regional level, given that it already has standing in the CPD and in the General Assembly. And we also see it a bit as redundant because the outcomes of the reviews are applicable to those members of each region. And so we kind of actually find it a bit redundant as well, because anyway, the reviews apply only to those members of each region. Thank you.
And may I call on the distinguished delegate from Iran?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask for the moment to put my proposal in the bracket, so we have to consult with our capital regarding this. We will come back to this issue later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from Iran. Now we move on and go to the next recommendation under section 1. And the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation earlier already wanted to give some suggestions here. So may I call first on the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Приглашаю внимание уважаемых участников к предпоследней строчке. Вычеркнуть слово «the outcome». Вместо этого слово «the report». Спасибо.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation. May I know if there are other comments from the distinguished delegates from other countries on recommendation 2? Distinguished delegate from the United States of America, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Just to mention here that our strong preference is to retain recommendation 2 as you have drafted it. Thank you.
May I seek clarification on the comment of the distinguished delegate from the United States of America? So your preference is to retain the original recommendation. However, we have here a suggestion to add the phrase "the outcome." So are you also not? You're saying that you're not amenable to this?
Thank you so much. So to clarify, we cannot go along with changing the outcome to the report here. So we would welcome the outcome, but not the changing it to the report. Thank you.
May I call on the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation?
Спасибо, уважаемые господа председательствующие, уважаемые делегаты. Дело в том, что нам хотелось бы, учитывая, что 28-й год не скоро, но нам хотелось бы определенности в формулировках. Мы полагаем, что форма итога должна быть предопределена. Основным мандатом на такую форму для нас является доклад-отчет, не какие-либо иные. И, собственно, только этим вызвана наша, как мне казалось, абсолютно редакционная поправка с определенностью в форме документа, который, собственно, будет завершена работа в 2028 году. Поэтому мне представляется, что всем делегатам было бы важно иметь такую определенность в документе, который мы сейчас принимаем. А вот эта неопределенная формулировка «итог», которая может в дальнейшем, уважаемые коллеги, приобрести любую форму там, декларации, каких-то заявлений или еще чего-то, что нам очень сложно сейчас в 2023 году предвосхитить или предположить, мне представляется, нам не получится поддержать.
May I call on the distinguished delegate of the United States of America, considering the explanation of the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation, where the outcome could be already in the phrase "the report"?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thanks to my colleague from the Russian Federation. I think from our perspective, outcome is broader than the report. It's more ambitious. The report is simply a a record of meetings that took place and discussions that were had. And from our perspective, having an outcome also leaves the opportunity between now and 2028 to potentially have, I know for this meeting, we didn't have necessarily a negotiated outcome document, but it doesn't mean we may not between now and 2028, and we want to leave that possibility open. And so only having the report would just mean a summary, factual summary of the meeting. And so we feel we are limiting ourselves a bit by only having the report. Thank you.
May I again call on the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation?
Уважаемый госпожа председательствующая, мы искренне со своей стороны, как вы видите, заинтересованы на принятии сегодня компромиссного документа, и поэтому стараемся предлагать только компромиссные и выверенные редакционные правки. Но если так случится, что нам не удастся договориться о форме будущего в 2028 году документа, хотя мне представляется, у нас будет масса возможностей в рамках подготовки конференции определиться, собственно, с масштабом этого документа, тогда нам не придется ничего другого, как представителю российской делегации, как предложить после цифры 2028 поставить точку и оставить на, собственно, ESCAP возможность к 2028 году самим определить, исходя, как говорит моя коллега из Соединенных Штатов Америки, масштабность, возможности этого будущего документа, но уж тем более не предвосхищая сейчас, что такое мы будем в 2028 году принимать. Тогда второе предложение Российской Федерации после 2028 поставить точку и все остальное определить в ходе подготовки будущей конференции.
May I call on the distinguished delegate from the United States of America? If we can have some compromise here, it's between the phrase "the outcome" and the report.
Thank you so much. And I think my distinguished colleague from the Russian Federation and I are have the same idea, which is not prejudging between what happens between now and 2028, but perhaps are looking at it from different angles. So in that regard, I thank them for the other suggestion to end after 2028 and want to maybe add another potential solution as well, and to submit any relevant documents maybe as a way so that we are not prejudging an outcome or a report. And again, having that any relevant documents, or perhaps another way is a report and any other relevant documents, including potential outcomes. Again, not prejudging anything, but giving kind of the various options that may take place. So just as another alternate, so maybe one proposal is ending after 2028, or having this kind of broad proposal that takes into account the different potential documents that may come up, because I do think we're on the same page in terms of not wanting to prejudge. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from the USA. Now, I believe that the distinguished delegate from the USA has two suggestions, and which is okay, which is to agree to end with 2028 or to continue after 2028 and use instead of the outcome or the report the phrase any relevant documents. So may I now request the response from the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation on which would be your preference.
Я искренне благодарю свою коллегу из Соединенных Штатов Америки за компромисс. Мне представляется, что если мы предложили поставить точку, и Соединенные Штаты с этим согласны, то есть ли смысл искать какие-то третьи варианты, которые сейчас точно вызовут дискуссию в зале. Спасибо. Поэтому ставим точку, если коллеги согласны.
Thank you very much. So the compromise between the distinguished delegates from the Russian Federation and the USA is to stop at 2028. May I now call on the distinguished delegate from Iran?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We came to the compromise, yes. After 2028, we have a full stop. Oh, it's okay, yes. We are okay with this one. It's we are more comfortable with the deleting the remaining of the sentence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished delegate from Iran. Distinguished delegate from the United States of America.
Thank you so much. No, just to clarify that our preference would be the proposal that we made as well, any relevant documents. So if I can ask my distinguished colleague from the Russian Federation if they would be amenable at all to that as well, and welcome any further tweaks just to make it as broad as possible where we're not prejudging whether a report or an outcome. If documents is not the right word, if we welcome any other tweaks, but our preference would be to still keep that latter part and make it kind of as broad as possible. I just want to hear reactions too before taking it back on our side in terms of ending after 2028. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will call on two delegates. First, the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation, and then I will call on the distinguished delegate from Iran. Distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation, please.
Спасибо большое. Но, уважаемая госпожа председательствующая, мы тем самым вернулись в начало нашей дискуссии. У нас стояло максимально общее, неконкретное слово «итог». Мы заменяем его по предложению коллег из Соединенных Штатов на столь же неконкретное слово «какие-то соответствующие документы». Примерно такая же степень неопределенности. Поэтому мы предлагаем все-таки, раз есть компромиссный вариант, поставить точку, на нем остановиться и двигаться дальше по документу. Мы не можем поддержать соответствующий документ. Это возврат к началу дискуссии.
Thank you very much. Distinguished delegate from Iran, please.
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, we are not negotiating the text of Bible here. We cannot prejudge the documents that are not available for us now. So our preference, our strong preference is to have a full stop after 2028, just to avoid any prejudgment regarding the documents that are going to be prepared after that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the distinguished delegate from Iran. Distinguished delegate from the United States of America.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Maybe just to ask a clarification, because we're really trying to think through the Russian Federation's proposal, and if we were to go back to their initial proposal of changing outcome to report, can I ask just a technical question? The report would also include any documents that may come up. So if there are any negotiated outcomes or anything that would take place between now and 2028, those would all be included in the report. Is that correct?
I would like to ask the secretary to help me answer that question.
Just to clarify, there is a chair summary that will be annexed to this procedural report. And the chair summary, as we indicated earlier, will be shared with member states within a week after the conclusion of this meeting. Thank you.
Distinguished delegate from the USA.
Thank you very much, and thank you to my distinguished colleague from the Secretariat. So just to understand the process, then annexes for any future reports as well would reflect whether that's a chair summary or a negotiated outcome document, if I'm understanding correctly, in which case we would then, in the spirit of compromise, knowing we are short on time, be able to go along with the Russian Federation's proposal on changing outcome to report, because we would prefer to have that versus ending at 2028. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate of the USA. That was the original suggestion of the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation, so I guess they're okay with that. And I would now go back to the distinguished delegate from Iran, who actually agreed with ending this recommendation with 2028. So I would like to ask the distinguished delegate from Iran if you are amenable, you're okay with the first recommendation of the distinguished delegate from the Russian Federation, where the outcome is changed to the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I explained earlier, our preference is to end this on 2028. But for the sake of compromise, we can also accept changing outcomes to report. We don't have any problem with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from Iran. I see no other flags raised. So the recommendation to suggestion has been considered. So we are actually done with section 1A, both recommendation 1 and recommendation 2. But so I would like to then note that the recommendation 2 is adopted. We go back to recommendation 1 because we still have the comment from the distinguished delegate from Iran, where we have here the suggestion of adding the phrase where applicable. This is suggestion. May I go back to the distinguished delegate from Iran?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have sent it to the capital and in an urgent, with the urgency. So we are waiting for the capital to inform us. So please keep it open. We will come back to the first paragraph. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So there is no adoption of recommendation 1 yet. So we move forward and we go to the next section, section 2, and the Secretariat is showing us on the screen. Actually, this is still section 1B, number 2. So may I request the various delegations, if you have any comments on B2 of section 1. Is there any? May I call on the distinguished delegate from Japan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is with regard to the decision text. We have a minor change to suggest on the third line towards the end. Instead of the words as a regional input to, so instead of that, change that to help inform. So delete as a regional input on the third line. Delete the as a regional input as a. And instead, so delete that and say to help inform the assessment of this. Thank you. And just the logic there is that the connotation is that there's a consensual understanding perhaps as a regional input. And I just wanted to reflect in the language that a lot of views, different views were expressed at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from Japan. May I see any reaction to this this suggestion of changing the phrase as a regional input to the phrase to help inform? I see no flags raised, no further comments. Section 1B2 is adopted as suggested by the distinguished delegate from Japan. We go now to the next section on organization, and we start with what the Secretariat will be showing us on screen. We start with 2A. These is just a documentation of our opening. If there are no comments on 2A, this part of this is adopted, 2A. We go to 2B, and this is just a list of the delegates. As mentioned earlier, the Secretariat asked for credentials, and there were no corrections. So this part, letter B, reflects the credentials from the various delegations. So may I request the Secretariat to scroll down to where we have the listing of the representatives from the various countries and CSOs and international organizations. I see no flag raised on B. The B is adopted. The next is letter C, 2C, which is the documentation of the election of the officers of the conference. And the Bureau was asked about the credentials, and we agreed to this, that we gave no edits. I see no flag raised, no comments. C is adopted. 2D lists our agenda, which is just a reproduction of the agenda as given us for this conference. So may I request the Secretariat to just scroll to the last part of this section D, which is faithful to the agenda that we have been using in the conference. So this is 2C, no flags raised, no comments. 2C is adopted. E is documentation of other events of the conference, which are seminars, side events, and special sessions held in conjunction with our conference. So this is again a documentation of all events aside from the plenary session. May I request the Secretary to scroll down just slowly in case someone has some comment? I see no flag raised, no comments. This section E.
China wants to.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Distinguished delegate from China.
At the part other events under E. E other events, number C. We have the side event from China, and we would like to put the China Population and Development Research Center ahead of China Family Planning Association.
So the second organization in the list is requested to be placed as first in the list.
Yeah, you can just yeah.
Cut. I would like to request the Secretary to just cut the phrase "the China Population and Development Research Center."
Yeah, it should be organized by the China Population and
Yes.
Development Research Center and the China Family Planning Association.
The,
under the China Family Planning Association. You can just delete the first one and write
okay.
it after the sentence.
Yes, thank you. Just paste it. So we remove and. So it's a listing of 3 organizers: the China Population Development Research Center, comma, the China Family Planning Association, and the UNFPA. Did we capture your edit, distinguished delegate from China?
Yes, we accept this.
Thank you very much. May I call on the distinguished delegate from the Philippines?
Thank you, Madam Chair. May we also manifest the inclusion or additional information on item letter D to include after Southeast Asia the word jointly organized by the National Population Family Planning Board of Indonesia, comma, the Commission on Population and Development. of
Distinguished
the
delegate
Philippines.
from the Philippines, may I request the secretary to write first the word jointly, then we will, the secretariat will type your next. Okay, thank you. So after Indonesia, comma, yes, and the distinguished delegate of the Philippines will list the the co-organizers. After Indonesia, comma, please.
Comma,
Yes.
the Commission on Population and Development of the Philippines. Commission on Population and Development of the Philippines.
Please.
And UNFPA country offices of Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from the Philippines. Did we capture your edit? Thank you very much. I now call on the distinguished delegate from the Maldives.
Thank you, Madam. I just wanted to change the name of the Bureau of Statistics of Maldives. This is referring to item number G. We would like to change Maldives Bureau of Statistics instead of Bureau of Statistics of Maldives. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate of Maldives. So, by the Maldives Bureau of Statistics. Distinguished delegate from Maldives, did we capture your edit? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
May I request the secretary to continue scrolling down in case there are some other edits. I see no other flag raised. Section E is adopted. We go to the next, I'm sorry, that was section 2E. So we now go to section 3, the chair's summary. As already stated by our secretariat, the chair's summary will be available with this report for email to us a week after this conference, after today. If there are no comments, clarification, this section 3 is adopted. Okay, we also have before us the annexes. So these are the list of documents used in the conference. And the secretariat is scrolling down. I believe this is the last part. These were also the documents that were in the website for the conference. I see no flags raised, no comments. The annex is adopted. We go back to recommendation 1. I have not forgotten that. To the distinguished delegate from Iran, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I greatly value and respect the Bureau and the time of other delegations, I believe it's important to find a compromise. Therefore, I'm choosing to withdraw my proposal at this time. However, I would like to reserve the right of my delegation for presenting an explanation of position after before the adoption of the report. We have an explanation of position that is going to be presented. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the distinguished delegate of Iran. So the suggestion earlier is withdrawn, and we have before us recommendation 1. I see no flags raised. Going. Recommendation 1 is adopted. Dear distinguished delegates, as we have reviewed all sections of the report, and we have adopted the different sections, I now call on the distinguished delegate from Iran who patiently waited to give the statement. Thank you so much, distinguished delegate from Iran.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'm sorry to take your time, but this is an EOP that should be given regarding the 7th Asia Pacific population. Madam Chair, my delegation would like to extend its appreciation to the Secretariat of ESCAP for presenting the draft report of the 7th Asian and Pacific Population Conference, included in document ESCAP/APPC 7L1 and the document ESCAP APPC 7.2 entitled Review of Progress Made Towards the Implementation of the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development, as well as of the Program of Action of ICPD and the key actions for its future implementation in Asia and Pacific, and document ESCAP/APPC 7/3 entitled Impacts of Climate Change on Population and Development in Asia and the Pacific. At the same time, Madam Chair, certain controversial and non-consensus terms and languages in the above 2 documents, as well as the draft report of the conference, cannot be accepted by the delegation of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Based on that, my delegation disassociates itself from all of the references to these phrases, including but not limited to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights, sexual minority groups, comprehensive sexuality education, family planning policy, people in all their diversity, people with diverse sexual orientation, persons with diverse sexual orientation and gender identities, gender transformative, gender perspective, gender responsive, intersecting forms of gender-based violence, gender identities, and many others. Furthermore, in relation to the draft report recommendations of the conference, my delegation would like to reiterate that as the outcomes of the reviews of the program of action of the ICPD are not UN member states' negotiated texts, my delegation disassociates itself from all the references mentioning those outcomes of the reviews. In addition to that, as my country has voted against the 2013 Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population Development, my delegation would also disassociate itself from the phrase related to the implementation of this declaration. It should be noted that on the issues related to the population and development, the Islamic Republic of Iran acts solely based on its own national laws, legislation, and policies. Regarding the references in the report to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, it should be noted that the Islamic Republic of Iran considers this agenda as a non-legally binding, voluntary-based instrument, simply presenting a number of non-obligatory guidelines suggestions and recommendations. My delegation also officially announces that the Islamic Republic of Iran is not committed at all to those parts and elements of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development which, in one way or another, are in contradiction with the national priorities, laws, regulations, legislation, and policies of the Islamic Republic of Iran, as well as Islamic principles, instructions, and teachings, and cultural and religious norms, traditions, and values of Iranian society. Based on that, the Islamic Republic of Iran has no legal obligation vis-à-vis the implementation of the above-mentioned instruments, and in all domestic development issues, national upper-handed instruments, plans, programs, and strategies shall enjoy total priority and would be considered as the sole and final source of action and reference for my country. Madam Chair, my delegation requests that this statement be put in the records and included in the relevant official reports of this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate from Iran. I would like to ask any other country wishing to make a statement to raise their flag before I declare the report adopted, noting country statements such as what Iran gave. I see no flags raised. I declare the report adopted with the request of Iran also for inclusion in the documentation. Thank you very much. May I call on the Secretariat before we close our conference?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And as a reminder, we will circulate the chair's summary within a week. We are also posting again our QR code for the evaluation of the meeting on our screens, and I strongly encourage and invite all of you to please complete the evaluation. It is very important to us. All statements that were delivered will be posted on our website in due course, and the recording of this meeting will also be posted on the website. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Sabine. Distinguished delegates, I now wish to invite Ms. Ling Yang, Deputy Executive Secretary, Program of ESCAP, and Ms. Diana Keita, UN Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director, Program, to take the seats at the rostrum. May I now invite Ms. Lin Yang, Deputy Executive Secretary, Program of ESCAP, to deliver her closing statement on behalf of ESCAP.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Excellencies and Vice Chairs, my big sister, Diana, Katie, United Nations Assistant Secretary General and the Deputy Executive Director, UNFPA. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude the 7th Asia and Pacific Population Conference, I would like to thank each of you for taking part in this important conference. In the past 3 days, we have been guided by 2 documents, the Asian Pacific Ministerial Declaration and the ICPD Program of Action, and to review their implementation in the Asia and the Pacific in the context of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In the spirit of this document, we have been very candid and constructive discussions to identify good practices, lessons learned, and both new and continuing challenges. We have reaffirmed our commitment to a people-centered, rights-based, gender-sensitive, and inclusive approach to implementing the population and the development agenda. We are committed to invest in collecting, analyzing, and disseminating disaggregated data, and we continue to foster collaboration and strengthen partnership, including with the civil society organizations. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the importance of this conference cannot be overstated, given that Asia and the Pacific account for 60% of the global population. Beyond sheer numbers, this gathering itself reflects our shared commitment to addressing the population dynamics in our region. Therefore, only the collective resolve, constructive dialogues, and the solution-oriented approach can take us to tap our potential and make substantial contribution to the ICPD 30 and position ourselves for the post-2030 population and development agenda. As underscored by Ambassador Nomi, the chair of the 57th session of the CPD, let's make solutions a reality. Looking ahead, we are presented with milestone opportunities. We must ensure that these collective commitments of this conference are carried forward to the Commission session in 2024, and the key messages are echoed in the Summit of the Future. As mentioned by many delegations and echoed in insights from other regional conferences, what is fast becoming universal is that the world is aging. This not only emphasized the importance of grappling with the demographic shift, but also underscored the significance of fostering intergenerational relations and solidarity. This is a very critical point for the Summit of the Future. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of ESCAP, I thank the 41 member states who actively participated in this conference. I thank our UN colleagues and the many civil society organizations, including the youth groups, that engaged with such energy and passion. Let me thank our strong and committed partner, the United Nations Population Fund, for its collaboration on many aspects of the conference over many months and throughout this meeting. We hope to continue to build on this partnership in the future. I thank Diana in particular for her dedication and participation throughout this conference. We are particularly grateful to the Royal Thai government and to His Excellency Arulwat Silpa Acha, the Minister of Social Development and Human Security, for serving as the chair of the conference. I thank the 2 very able vice chairs, Ms. Lisa Grace Basilis, Undersecretary and Executive Director, Commission on Population and Development, Philippines, and Ms. Ashley Lofa Apinalu, High Commissioner of Tuvalu to Fiji. I also would like to extend my gratitude to the roundtable speakers and moderators. Lastly, I wish to convey my sincere thanks and appreciation to the dedicated staff of the ESCAP Secretariat for their tireless efforts in organizing this successful conference. I wish everyone a safe journey back home. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lin Yang, Deputy Executive Secretary, for delivering the closing statement on behalf of ESCAP. I now call on Ms. Diana Keita, UN Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director for Program, UNFPA, to deliver closing remarks on behalf of UNFPA.
Madam Vice Chair, Under Secretary and Executive Director, dear Liza, High Commissioner of Tuvalu to Fiji, Ms. Seleofa Apinelu, Deputy Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, my dear young sister Lynn, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, good afternoon. What an incredible 3 days it has been here at the 7th Asian Population Conference. It has been a joy to see member states, civil society, and young people from across this diverse and beautiful region coming together and sharing experiences and celebrating the impact of your very hard work over the last 60 years, 30 years, and decade. I and my colleagues at UNFPA celebrate with you the remarkable achievement we have seen across Asia and the Pacific, and commend you on the progress in accelerating the vision of the ICPD. It is clear to me that this vision is no longer a dream, but a reality, one that all of you are bringing to life. During the forum with civil society and young people before the conference, and also during the conference discussion, I also heard the wide set of challenges facing the region. And you know them well. Demographic anxieties, mega trends such as climate change, urbanization, migration, and digital transformation, shrinking civic space, and the list goes on. All are changing the landscape of population and development and are impacting the entire region, especially the marginalized and the most vulnerable. And let us not lose focus. In the last 3 days alone, while we have been gathered here in this hall, approximately 200 women have lost their lives despite such maternal death being preventable. That's the reality we live in. And this is just one statistic, but underscores the need for strengthened regional collaboration now more than ever. And that is exactly what we have seen over the last week. I appreciate the energy, the spirit, and genuine interest that each of you has shown to work together to advance the quality of life of the 4.3 billion individuals from diverse cultural backgrounds that call this region home. Today, we are making history. We are doing this by shaping the future. Even though some of us may not have the privilege to be here to address this gathering when you convene again in 10 years. Some of you will come back to share this story. And I'm confident that the story in 10 years will be even better. It will be a story that is even more deeply embedded in human rights, gender equality, and social inclusion. It will be one that leaves no one behind, reiterating the ICPD promise made by the government to their people in 1994. What I have seen today is an acceleration of that promise, a promise that will continue to drive our joint advocacy and actions our spirit of collaboration to make the aspiration of this generation and future generation a reality. I would like to share the inspiring word of the visionary Rafael Salas, the first executive director of UNFPA. It was a head, not executive director then, who hailed from this region and shaped the future of population policies far beyond. He said, and I quote, "Interest in population is not a concern with the figures on a chart or curves on a graph alone. However important they may be, it is essentially an involvement with the future of humanity itself." End of quote. Excellencies and dear friend, allow me to thank our global chair, the Minister of Social Development and Human Security of Thailand, and the entire Bureau. Allow me to express my gratitude to all of you, member states, for your hard work this past week. Allow me to express my gratitude to ESCAP and the collegiality that they expressed toward UNFPA. To thank all the sister agencies, but a special thank into my own home, my UNFPA colleagues around the region. Interpreters, support team, everyone, we thank you deeply. This is the last of the 5 continental review. Next rendezvous is CPD 57 in New York, Commission Population Development. Allow me to recognize the chair in the room, Ambassador Espinosa, and the respect she has given to the 2 biggest regions on this planet, Africa and Asia and the Pacific, and making sure to attend herself those 2 reviews. Muchísimas gracias, Ambassador Espinosa. Together, we are stronger. Together, we can and will make the ICPD vision a reality for all, where every individual, regardless of age, cultural background, diversity, can freely exercise their rights and choices to live the life they desire today and in many, many years to come. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Diana Kita, UN Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director for Program of the UNFPA, for your closing and inspirational statement. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I now open the floor for any member state to say more before we say goodbye and say au revoir, see you at CPD 57. Any flag raised for any member state to give a statement? This is the chance. I see no flag raised. So, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we have made history these past 3 days. Through our collective efforts, we have reviewed the implementation of the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development. We have reviewed good practices and lessons learned. We identified gaps and challenges in implementation. We heard from member states, UN entities, and CSOs. I call on all of you to take the key messages back to your respective countries and ensure that we continue to address the challenges and harness the opportunities of the changing demographics in our region. Let us also ensure that these messages from Asia and the Pacific are elevated at the global level. In particular, I call on all of you to ensure that the discussions of the 7th Asian and Pacific Population Conference are highlighted at the forthcoming 57th session of the Commission on Population and Development in New York in 2024, as already mentioned by Ms. Diana Kita. Let us remember to be forward-looking in our messages and that they should pave the way for innovative, inclusive, and sustainable solutions. On behalf of the chair and my other vice chair, permit me to reiterate our sincere appreciation for the honor bestowed upon us to serve this conference. We also thank everyone for your collegiality and spirit of compromise. Thank you so much. My thanks also go to the hard work of all the secretariat, the members of the team who greatly facilitated our work. Let me also thank the conference officers and technicians, editors, and interpreters. And may I request everyone for us to give a round of applause to our interpreters? I thank all of you sincerely, those who are present in the room and those online. Thank you very much. With this, I declare the 7th Asian and Pacific Population Conference closed. Thank you.